What's going on, everybody? Mark here from Gamble Smart, and today we're talking about how to gamble smart, okay? So we talk about a lot of topics on this channel, and we've done videos on just about everything that we're going to mention in this video, but I thought it'd be a great idea to put something together that will have everything in one place so that you can watch this before you go to the casino the next time, and maybe rewatch it if you're going to the casino in the future, so that you kind of remind yourself of the things that we talk about on this channel to get you to become a better and more responsible and disciplined gambler. These are important topics, guys. We do not like reckless gamblers, and we don't like dumb gamblers either, because you're losing money that you don't necessarily need to be, okay? It's still a risk, right? We understand. People are always telling us, guys, there's no way to gamble smart. The best way to gamble smart is to not gamble at all. Okay, I get that. I get that. You guys need to decide whether you should be gambling at all, okay? But you're watching this video, so you're somewhat curious. I'm not sure how else you would have found this video. So you're somewhat curious about gambling smart. Is there anything that you can really do to up your game inside of the casino? We think the answer to that is yes, and we're gonna give you our top 10 ways to do that right now. All right, let's jump right in. Let's not waste any time. Gambling budget. What should you do? Guys, come here for a second. Do not decide this when you are in line at the ATM. You shouldn't even be in line at the ATM. Guys, that is the wrong time to be doing this. You need to decide the gambling budget before you even walk into the casino, okay? Think about this. What is that number? Well, we can't answer that for you. Everybody's situation is going to be different. You might only be able to bring 20 bucks in. And yeah, you can have some fun on 20 bucks. It may not last very long, but you could have some fun on 20 bucks. It could be 100 bucks, 300, 500, thousands. It doesn't matter. It really depends on you. But consider this before you come up with that number. It needs to be something that is after all bills paid, everything with life is settled. You know, this money should never be used for any of that kind of stuff, guys. You got alimony payments, you know who you are. You got mortgage, you got car payments, you got all that kind of stuff. You need to feed your kids. That is not gambling money, guys. And that should be obvious, but it really needs to be said, because I think a lot of people, and I've seen some of the clickbait titles on YouTube where it's like, you know, I need to make rent payments today, so I'm going to go to the casino and make my money for rent. Please don't do that. That is a slippery slope, and you're going to go off the deep end. So come up with that number. It needs to be seen as like entertainment value. Like how much would you normally spend to go out for a weekend, to go out to, you know, a show, a dinner and a show, or, you know, hotel night stay, travel, all that kind of stuff. Think of it like that. And who knows, you may come out ahead. You know, it's definitely, you know, Jody and I, my wife, are always, you know, she would rather spend her money at the spa, where I'm like, yeah, but once the massage is over, it's over. You can't get that money back. Where I'm like, I kind of want to risk it just in case, you know. But we see it as equal. So if she spends $300 at the spa, I'm going to spend $300 at the casino, but that's it, right? We're not going to chase any more than that. So think about that. Come up with that number. Get it together before you walk into the casino. Leave the ATM cards at home, because that's not what you should be doing. All right? Step number 2. All right, so the next thing is about myths and crazy misinformation out there about slot machines. Guys, there's tons of it out there. The main reason this channel exists and my good friend Brantley over at Cowboy Slots exists is because we heard about all this crazy stuff out there and people believing these things. Here's some examples. Wait, don't play this machine because somebody just hit the 1,000 credits, so it's going to start taking money away from people because it just paid off big. False. What about the other way around? Somebody just put a bunch of money in this machine, never got one top dollar bonus round. It needs to start giving out bonuses now. False. What about this game? Because I heard that it's hit 5 jackpot hand pays today. So this is a hot machine. False. What about playing this game because last week around this time, it hit a hand pay. And we know that it hit last week because I have it and I have the receipt. So it means that it's going to hit probably around the same time the following week. False. Don't ever play with your player's card because they'll track you and they can modify the odds on the machine based on if you're playing or not. False. Okay, that's just a handful of stuff that we hear, but there's way more than that. And we're trying to disprove that because you're probably making bad gambling decisions off of that information. So how do you know that we're telling the truth, okay? Valid question. I'm glad you asked, because I know at least somebody did ask out there. I'm glad you did, because it's important that you understand what the source of our information is too, okay? I've worked in the industry with people. I've still talked to a lot of people in the industry, from manufacturers to casinos to gaming control. I also do a lot of research with the documentation that's out there about how all of the mechanics of slot machines work. And this is all 100% public information, guys. We're not just making this stuff up, conjecture, speculation, things like that. This is all information that is publicly accessible. It's difficult to read because it's real heavy in statistics and things like that. I understand that. And that's why we're trying to break it down in a ways that you guys understand. Now, a lot of people say, well, who cares if you believe in these myths or not? But think about it for a second. Some of those scenarios that I just gave you, where I'm telling you that you shouldn't play, like the myth tells you shouldn't play a machine because it's just been given out a lot of money. Or the other way around, probably the more dangerous one is that this hasn't hit a bonus in hundreds of spins, so it's due. That's probably the more dangerous one. Guys, that's where you can make some bad judgment calls whenever you're deciding what to play and when to play and how much to play. And that's not what we want here. We want you to be educated and understand how all this stuff works. So do your research, whether you believe us or not, that's up to you. I understand that. But do your own research before you start blindly making betting decisions off of something that you've heard from somebody. And especially if anybody's charging you for anything. If anybody says, if you pay us, we will consult with you and teach you the science behind slot machines and how to guarantee wins. Or pay us and buy this book and we'll teach you the behind the scenes information about this game. Guys, if people are charging you for that information, that should automatically put up a red flag for you. This stuff is free. It's out there. You just have to dig for it, or you have to ask around the people that are in the industry and can explain it to you. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, guys, so the third one is about learning the game before you decide to play. So scenario time. You would not go up to a blackjack table that you've never played before, walk in there and start gambling your hard-earned money on a game that you don't even know the rules to. Would you do that? I don't think you would. Maybe there's some crazy gamblers out there that would, you know who you are. But that's not a good play, right? That's not gambling smart. So you should really learn the games before you jump into it, okay? There's a lot of tutorials out there about blackjack, craps. We got one coming. Dave's working on it, I promise. And then also roulette, three-card poker, a lot of stuff out there that you should do your own research, learn the game inside and out so you are 110% confident before you start playing that game. And we think that actually belongs to slot machines too. And I know a lot of you saying, it's like, come on, really? It's just about pushing the button and hoping for the best, right? I thought I was going to get the bonus right. That'd have been funny. In a large extent, it is. But there is something that you should be able to identify with a slot machine, and that is the volatility of it, okay? That's a big word. We toss it around a lot. But listen, volatility is about how the game is designed in the short term to pay you back, okay? These things are different. Payback percentage is not something that you notice in the short term, but the volatility of the game is something you can absolutely identify in the short term. So how do you do that? Okay, this is something I've been saying very recently, and I think this is the best way to do it, honestly, is before you start playing a game, let's say it's a new Huff and Puff game that just hit the casino floor, before you start putting money into it, go on YouTube and watch a bunch of people play that game. And I'm not talking about the YouTube Shorts guys and the TikToks where you just see the massive bonus rounds. I'm talking about long-term play. 5 to 10 minutes, even longer would be better. Live situation. Watch many of them so you can kind of gather, what do the bonus rounds feel like on average? How frequent does the bonus round come around on average? And these are things that you can learn by watching others play. Now, we don't want you to be a creep inside of the casino and just stand behind and watch people. That's why I think YouTube's the better suggestion. But learn, and you can understand the volatility of the game so you know what to expect before you walk in there, right? You don't want to just go in there recklessly and start playing the biggest, flashiest, awesome looking machine that you find, because it may be really high in volatility and you're going to wonder why you didn't get any bonus round hits or any progressive hits or any hits at all. Like, why? How is this possible? This machine must be tight. No, the machine's not tight. It's just that's how it's designed to play. And the best way to know that is to educate yourself about each of the individual games. Okay? All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, guys, so let's talk next about some of the things that you should be doing inside of the casino when you're actively gambling, okay? You need to be creating your sessions, and we've talked about it a lot on this channel, and we'll link a video down below where you can check it out more in detail. But session management is important because you need to break the cycle of the psychology that is going on inside of the casino. And the only way to do that is to get up and walk away every now and then, okay? Whether you're doing well or you're doing poorly, you need to build in these breaks. Here is something that I do, especially if I am by myself. I have to put these controls in place to protect me from myself, and you guys should think about doing something similar. So the way I deal with it is I bring very little of my budget down to the casino floor at a time. Whether if I'm staying in the hotel room, I'll put the rest in the safe. But I come down with very little of my budget, and I try to pretend that that is all I have. try to make it last as long as I possibly can. I ultimately want to try to double my money. So if I brought down $100, I want to try to get it up to 200. Is it always going to work? Of course not. But that's my goal. I set a goal saying this is the only $100 I got. Let's see if I can make it to 200. If I get to the 200, I immediately cash out and I take a break and I go back up to my room and I do something else for about 30 minutes to an hour. I watch a TV show. I like video games. I play old classic video games. So I'll do that to kind of get me to come back down from the psychology of the slot machines just saying, please, Mark, play more, play more. No, we don't want that. We want to break that cycle so that you can come back and kind of even out, so to speak, with your brain, because it's hard to do. It's hard to do. And you guys know that. If you've ever been on the casino floor for a very long time, you become a zombie, right? You just one more machine, and you can't ever make it to your hotel room because you're trying every machine on the way. You know what I'm talking about. So, and I'm guilty of that too, so don't get me wrong. But that's why you have to put controls in place. And if I don't have the money to spend, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to have to walk all the way back up to my room. And by then, I have calmed down and convinced myself, nah, just take a break. I'll come back down in an hour and try another $100. So consider doing that the next time you're in the casino. And I think it'll help break things up enough where you can convince yourself that maybe it's time to just call it quits for the night. Like, no more. Let's get out of here. Let's get in the car and drive home, or just go to bed and wake up early and leave, you know. Those are the things that you need to do. All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, the next thing to consider doing inside of a casino is a lockbox. Okay, and we have two different versions that we talk about on this channel, and we do sell both of these, but whether you get it from us or somebody else, we think it's important that you listen to some of the benefits of having each one of these. So the first one is a timed release lockbox. So essentially what this is you put money in this box and you set a timer, 24 hours, 12 hours, whatever the case is, and that box will not open until that timer goes off. Now, why would you use this? So here's how we've used it in the past. We're going to be somewhere for a couple of nights. I want to make sure that half of my budget is going to be ready for me the next day, that I don't get tempted to use the next day's budget the night that I arrive. Okay, that was a problem that I had. And so I decided to use this time release lockbox so that I'll put half of my budget in there and set it for 24 hours, and I cannot get into it until then. And this really helps me out in a lot of ways, because if you think about it, what happens if you blow your entire budget that first night, and then the next night all your friends are down there having fun, getting drinks, playing slots, hitting jackpots and all that stuff, and you've got nothing? You're probably more likely to go to the ATM because you want to join in on the fun, and obviously that's a no-no, so we don't want that. So the time release lockbox would have saved me in that scenario, and I would have had some money to play with. So think about using that for kind of like a precursor, you know, not a lockbox that we're going to talk about now, which is about after the fact. So the next lockbox is the more common one that you can find on Amazon and other places, but we have a special one that we had built that we think is a little bit better. But the idea with this one is that anytime you get money, you put it inside of this lockbox. There's a little slit on the side where you stuff money in, but you leave the key at home, right? So when you get home from the casino, you open it up and you see all your winnings in there, guys. And we have heard from countless people, and shout out to you and let us know in the comments, countless people use the lockbox and have come home with way more than they've ever dreamed imaginable before they started using it. Okay, it has changed a lot of people, and we feel that it can change you too. The idea is simple. You go to the ATM to cash out that ticket voucher because you just had a great hit on a slot machine. Immediately take the money out of the ATM and stuff it in that lockbox. Don't think twice about it. Just put it in there and forget about it. So when you get home, you open it up and surprise, you've got it, because you're not going to be tempted to spend that money because you can't get into it, right? So think about using a lockbox the next time, even if you're very disciplined, okay? Everybody can get some benefit out of this. I still use it on occasion. I'm pretty disciplined now, but every now and then, especially for long trips, I certainly bring it along. So if I hit something big, I put it away in there so I don't think about taking it out and try to gamble even more with it, because that's what we're trying to avoid, right? Taking home our winnings. All right, let's move on to the next. All right, another one we're going to talk about is the Gamble Smart method. Now, we don't like using the word method because it makes it feel like it's some kind of strategy or something like that, but we didn't know what else to call it. That's what everybody else calls it these days. But the idea is to do something that teaches you a lot of what we're talking about in this video, but in a fun way, right? So here's what you do, and we have a dedicated video on it where Dave and I have done this live a couple of times, and we'll put a link up here and then also down in the description in case you want to check it out. But take $100 or $50, whatever you want to do, and split it up into $10 sessions, okay? So if you're putting $100 in, that will be 10 $10 sessions. And then go play any slot that you want, doesn't matter, but try to max out around $1.50 or $2. Don't go any higher than that. But play the slot, and any time that you do a spin and you win more than your bet, cash that out in a voucher and put that voucher in your wallet or purse or whatever and forget about it. Then play your next $10, whether it's on the same machine or another machine, whatever the case is. Play that next $10, and then if you get a win, cash out. Are you always going to get a win? Of course not. There'll be a lot of times you get blanks. You put $10 in, you play it all the way down, you don't get anything. That's going to happen, right? But the idea here is to see what you end up with at the end, and you may be really surprised. A lot of us are never satisfied enough with the wins that we get. You know, I bet 1 credit and got 5 credits back. What's the most likely scenario there? You're going to just keep playing because you call it bullets or whatever you call it to keep playing. Well, I got 5 more extra spins out of it, right? That's actually a win. But we don't really identify or do anything with that. And so what this Gamble Smart method does is train you to be way more cognizant and aware of those wins and pocket them. But you could do something fun with it. One of the things that we've done is whoever the winner is, they take the other person's ticket. You know, make some fun out of it. And we think that you'll do something a little bit more smarter when you're playing, whenever you realize the wins that are coming. Because a lot of us just overlook it. We're never satisfied enough. What is it? 10 credits, 20 credits, 50 credits? When is it enough to say, I'm satisfied, I'm going to cash out and walk on? Is there really even a number, right? Think about that. There may not even be a number. We just kind of arbitrarily say, yeah, that's enough. But this way, you're at least identifying all the wins and you can walk off with at least something. And sometimes, hey, we've done this before with fans and stuff like that, where they've walked away with way more than $100 that they started with, and we feel like they wouldn't have done that unless they broke this up and they did this method. All right, so give it a shot next time. Have some fun with it. Let us know in the comments how it went. Even if you lose it all, let us know. We just want to hear about it. All right, next one, guys. All right, let's talk about gambling online for a little bit, because for a lot of you, that's the only way that you're able to gamble, or it's something that you enjoy doing. Now, we don't have any inherent issues with gambling online, but you should be a little bit more disciplined. If you think about it, going to a casino requires you to get in the car, drive to the casino, you know, get your money ahead of time, go in there, gamble, you run out of money, you leave. But when you're at home, it's really easy just to keep funding, playing all over your house. You know, you're sitting on the toilet playing blackjack, you know what I'm talking about? Like, it takes a little bit more discipline to gamble online. So what we want you to do is, if you do gamble online, look for those places that offer responsible gambling stuff inside of those settings, that where you can put limits on yourself, like daily amounts of deposits, daily amounts of play, and lock it down for 365 days or whatever they allow you to do, so you cannot change it on yourself, okay? Look for games that have those in there. We're going to be talking about some in the near future that we feel do a really good job of this, and we think it's important that you understand that. Gambling online is a whole nother level, guys. It takes a lot more, and we want you to be safe with it. So put those measures in place, and also understand that a lot of these have self-exclusion. So if it's just too much, like you're losing control playing online because it's too easy to deposit, too easy to play, you're playing all night, you're never stopping, all those kinds of things, well, then in that case, do self-exclusion. It'll automatically delete your account and you'll never be able to play there again. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is learning when you're about to go tilt or when you're about to lose control, okay? Why is this important? Well, we all have a point in time, and it's different for all of us, where we just go off the cliff. You know what I'm talking about? Where you just feel like, man, I got to get this freaking bonus. This bonus is just not coming out. I'm just going to keep reaching in, putting hundreds in, putting hundreds in, putting hundreds in, going to the ATM, getting more hundreds because I got to get this freaking bonus. You know, I just got to get it. You know what I'm talking about. There is a moment in time where we have all crossed that threshold. And what I want you to do is practice on identifying when that occurs and then immediately stopping, okay? As soon as you feel like you're about to do that, stop. You know, you're getting the shaky hands and stuff like that. Stop. Immediately leave the casino floor. Take all your vouchers and everything with you. That's okay. But immediately leave the casino floor and go do something else for way more than 30 minutes or an hour. Maybe that is time to call it a night. Maybe it's time to leave. Maybe it's time to go enjoy a show and do something else for the night and let tomorrow be another day. Because once you cross that line, I am telling you, it is very hard to stop. It's like a train that doesn't have brakes. It's going to keep going and going and going until it slowly stops. And where it usually ends up is at $0. You got nothing left. You've exhausted everything. I understand. Sometimes you get a Hail Mary and it works out and you get your money back, but that is few and far between, and you shouldn't think like that, because that's where you lead into trouble. So try to identify that next time. And we're all, even if we're very disciplined as gamblers, we all have this crossover point. But try to identify where that is, and then before you fall off the cliff, just stop, immediately stop, and go do something else, okay? give that a shot. Let's get on to the next. All right, the next tip is to make sure that you understand that the expected results of playing these things or any game in the casino over time is to lose, right? That is how they're designed to play out. It's gambling. You could win in the short term, but the more you play, the longer you play, the more you're going to lose. That's just the way it is, right? And you've got to understand that going in. Now, we feel very strongly that if you practice a lot of the things that we talk about in this video and other videos on our channel, and shout out if you're new here, we'd love a subscription and a thumbs up to this video if you're getting some help out of it, is that you can win in the short term, and you can win a lot more in the short term if you put these things in place and you start practicing some of this stuff, taking the breaks, putting the money in the cash box, all those things. These are things the casinos do not educate you on for a reason. They want you to lose your mind in the casino. They want you to just go crazy and just keep spending money and drink and drink and drink and put more money in, go to the ATM, max out your credit cards, all that kind of stuff, doing cash advances with a smile on their face at the cashier. That's what they want. But that's not what we want. We want you to stop, be cool, have fun, but put limits in place so that you're not coming home depressed every single time you go to the casino and say, I'm always losing. I always lose. We get comments like this all the time. I'm always losing. I always play down to zero. There's something wrong there. It's not the casino's fault. There's something wrong there. You probably have a control issue. But you need to understand that it is still gambling, okay? And I know I'm kind of mincing words here, like, well, you said that you could win, but then you can't win. And I'm talking about in the short term. We're talking about short-term success here. And I think it can compile over long-term success if you put all these things in place and you know when to walk away and to take the winnings and leave, okay? But the longer you play, like that's the people that, like I said, turn into zombies and they're sitting in the casino for, all night until 4 or 5 in the morning. You know who you are. And then you end up like either breaking even or you just go home broke. And it's like, if you would have just stopped and left, you would have been a winner, right? But that's not the typical scenario, and casinos know that, right? So understand you can't always win, but understand in the short term you can be a winner. That's the key word. You can be a winner if you put some of these things in place. All right, let's move on to the next. All right, let's bring it all home and wrap this up and give you some departing thoughts with this last one. And that is, you need to play the games that you enjoy. Okay, we talk a lot about double top dollar and top dollar, and we don't play high volatility games often and stuff like that. That's just our play style. But if you know what you're getting into and you understand that high volatility means it could be very difficult to get wins, and you love those games, then by all means, please play them. But just know the risks and what you're playing before you start to commit to it, okay? Just do that for me, okay? I think it'll make a big difference. So play what you enjoy. Remember, it's for entertainment with the chance of winning. And if you do some of the things that we talk about on this channel, and I really think it'll make a difference. I really do. And I know we've done a lot of videos on this, and a lot of you guys that have been around for a long time, you keep hearing me talk about the same things over and over again. But listen, repetition is good. We need a summary video. We need something that we can watch and understand before we go to the casino the next time to kind of bring all these to the surface so that we know what we're doing, and the confidence that we have is just going to be so much higher before we walk in there, right? That's what we ultimately want. We want to walk in as confident gamblers and walk out winners. I don't know what else to say. All right, guys? Well, I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember, share this with somebody who you think could benefit from being a smart gambler. There's a lot of reckless gamblers out there, and some people that just will never want to hear it. I understand. We thank you for trying, but believe me, we know. We definitely know. But thanks for all your efforts out there. We would love a subscription and a thumbs up to this video if you enjoyed it, and we will see you on the next one, guys. Take care. Gamble smart, gamble safe.